update the player lists later. We cool. Can we see Denmark's income? Yes, we will take a look at that in just a moment. Have the Ottomans conquered Rhodes yet? Because the Knights respawn on Malta could be useful for England. The Knights are a player, and if the players lose Rhodes, then they're just dead. So no. And it was quite funny because the Knights player was formerly Hamburg, and we had prepared it beforehand because Hamburg at the between sessions was fully occupied by Denmark, and we were like, okay, I want you to try very hard to remain independent. To his credit, he did bring in a bunch of allies, but it just wasn't enough, especially when Denmark brought France into the war. But we were saying, okay, it's fairly unlikely that you're going to be able to save Hamburg, so if you did move, where would you want to go? And he said the Knights. And ordinarily I'd be like, that's an OPM, I'm not very keen on it, but I like the Knights, and I think the Knights would be very interesting for a multiplayer player. So we secretly prepared goals last week in case he did have to move. I didn't tell him what the goals were because I didn't want to hype him up for it. But the goals were there. Then as soon as Hamburg lost, I was like, right, pause the game. Make sure that the Ottomans cannot declare war on the Knights while we'd like to do the player transfer across. Because I know that Helson was at least thinking about going after the Knights. So the Knights are still here. They are allied, I think, to Venice and possibly the Pope as well. They've definitely got a couple of big protectors. And I'm fairly sure are causing havoc with the Ottomans. Allied to Venice, and they're in Venice's trade thing. I'm actually a little surprised that they're not allied to the Pope. I would have expected that. Okay, so we have Bohemia here now. So Bohemia is going to be part of the Florentine War, but that's fine. That's as per rules. And we've also got Maurici coming in, so Holland lost connection, I guess. And I still want to click on Denmark. Yell at me as soon as the game is, unpaused again. And I'll click on Denmark. Meanwhile, we have a couple of people who have hit that follow button, so thank you very much for doing so. We have got Mr. Duty Skeleton Remastered, Canera, and Paradox Fan 69. Thank you very much for the follows. Welcome to the channel. I do apologise that I missed those earlier. Hello and welcome. So while this is going on, how far did I get down my list of talking to you about people's goals? Let me just go to my list last time. So we spoke about England, so we need to go on from England. Okay, we can do that. So the next nation to talk about will be Ethiopia. So Ethiopia is in an interesting position because they are a major Coptic nation. So many of their goals are to do with the Coptic faith. They need to own 3 provinces required for the patriarchal blessings. That's like Alexandria? Okay, I have no idea which ones are required. We will click on that after we've checked Denmark's income. They need to own and convert to Coptic, either Constantinople or Rome. So they want to get Constantinople or Rome and then make those Coptic. They need to... The Coptic faith must have more total provinces than Protestantism, Catholicism, or Orthodoxy. So not combined, any of those. So if any of those 3 get badly damaged in a war or players not doing well or whatever, then Coptic have a chance of fulfilling this goal. And this is not a conditional goal. If this ever happens, he wins. Oh, he gets that goal, rather. He doesn't win. But that can only be completed after 1550. So that gives the Reformation some time to grow and expand, but he basically needs to be bigger than Protestantism, Catholicism, or Orthodoxy. Coptic faith must have more total provinces than Sunni or Shia. So again, very similar to outnumbering the Christian faith. He needs to try to outnumber either Sunni or Shia of the Islamic faith. And the Horn of Africa region must be entirely Coptic. So just like the Ottomans want to make sure the Horn of Africa is entirely Islamic, Ethiopia wants to make sure it's entirely Coptic. So there is going to be definitely a war of religion going down here. Although the Ottomans are a little bit further away, and this is Ethiopia's home turf. Right, what are the blessings? No, let's look at Denmark, and then we'll go to the blessings. So Denmark's income at the moment is plus 7.5. Taxation is 7.6 ducats. Trade is 3.5. He is getting 5.8 ducats in subsidies, and I think that's because he's actually transferring his trade power to England. He's basically feeding the English Channel. Yeah, there's a lot of money flowing out of Lubeck at the moment, so he's feeding money into England. England is then collecting that and probably focusing on trade ideas and stuff like that. Plus, England has been upgrading their centres of trade, which is very nice to see, and is then paying out subsidies in exchange for the trade power that they are receiving. And because Lubeck is a big chunk of the trade subsidies, or a big chunk of the trade going into the English Channel right now, is getting a bigger share. So if we actually go to England, this is the important one to look at. We can see diplomatic expenses. He's currently paying out 16 ducats a month for the trade that he's getting. So 3.6 is going to France, 5.8 is going to Denmark, and then 7 is going to Holland. So Holland is also transferring trade. And Holland is a very important one because obviously they are in the same trade node as the English, and England wants to be collecting as much money here as they can. So the Ethiopian blessings, which Poet is actually just beaten me to, but hey, I'm just going to bring this interface up so we can see it, is they need to own Alexandria, Aksum, Antakya, which is Antioch, Qast Ibrim, and Yerevan. And currently they own Aksum already, so they get 1 blessing, which is missionary strength plus 1.5, which is good because he has a lot of religious stuff to happen. And then the other blessings that he can potentially get is the legitimacy, manpower recovery, core creation cost, and discipline. And the cool thing about this is anyone who is Coptic benefits from the patriarchal blessings. This is like a Coptic faith united objective, and then anyone who is of Coptic faith can control and convert the territories to do that. Ethiopia getting a royal marriage offer from Sweden. Are you allied to Sweden? That's a ambitious one. No, we're not going to be able to tell just by doing that. Mercuria Medibari. So I don't know why Sweden is offering a marriage there. Alright, France is at war. Here we go. Oh no, this is only against Brittany. This is England against Brittany. So is England trying to steal Brittany from under France's nose? Although France is helping him do it. I wonder if England is trying to build France up here. So England is going to take the territory and then sell it to France, which I think will bypass AE issues. It'll lose England a lot of prestige in the process. And it will definitely make France appreciate England's sacrifices more. It's very interesting seeing these two so closely allied because they have so many conflicting goals as well. I think the Sweden marriage pop-up was from some reason from when I looked at Denmark. Ah, that does sound rather more likely, doesn't it? Wait, has Denmark stolen this from Sweden? Sweden has no core on it. Interesting. So yeah, Sweden has sold this stuff to Denmark. I wonder why you did that. Because Sweden's goal is to take over Skåne. Unless Sweden is selling Denmark this stuff so that Denmark can sell Sweden this to complete Sweden's goal. But why would you purposefully try to help another player complete their goal? There are definitely some interesting shenanigans going on at the moment. Okay, so we've talked about Ethiopia. So Florence. As I've checked a few times, Florence needs to have 1 province with 100 development. So if we had either a Milan or Florence player, that was going to be like their main objective. So they need to get 1 province to 100 development. I do wonder if Florence is going to wait until they get somewhere like Milan, which is already at 30, so they just need to add another 68. Or if they're actually going to try to build up Florence, which is going to be more expensive because it has the 25% dev cost from being hills. And in fact, if we go over to Florence, have they taken economic ideas yet? They have not. So I doubt that they're going to start really deving up until they have got the capstone from economic ideas, which is dev cost minus 20%. Otherwise, that is going to be stupendously expensive. They need to become a great power. Florence is all about the prestige and the notoriety. They're at 153. They could... no, they're half the strength of Denmark at the moment. They need to have 20 universities, which does mean owning at least 20 provinces for the Florentines. They need to have a higher income than Venice and Genoa. So they need to beat both Venice and Genoa. So at the moment their income is 20. Venice's is 40. And Genoa apparently doesn't exist anymore. Genoa's is mine. No, 5.5. So Genoa has decided to flee for the Crimea, having sold Genoa's territories completely. So the Papal States has just grown a little bit larger, and that has actually just ceded a bunch of trade power to the Pope. So this is going to be a very strong papal power at the moment. 14.9 income. That's actually really decent for the Pope. The Pope sometimes struggles a bit for cash. So we could see a strong papal player here, and the Pope is 100% about ensuring Catholic supremacy. So the Pope doesn't really care about owning territories himself. He is all about making sure various provinces in the world become Catholic. So he's like a supporting player as opposed to like a frontline, I'm going to attack everything player. Thought this didn't start until 3 GMT. 3 BST. British summertime. Which was an hour ago. Then they also must make sure that Austria has no ports in the Adriatic. So at the moment Austria does have one port in Gors. If that is removed by anyone, doesn't have to be Florence. Florence could just pay Venice to take Gors, that would count. Then Austria has no ports in the Adriatic, that counts as a complete goal. Although that is a conditional. I'm not like mentioning when these are conditionals, like having the 100% development province and the Adriatic is a conditional, which means he only gets that goal as long as that clause is actually completed. Alright, France. This is the one that we really needed to talk about. So France's goals: have a Canadian colony of at least 20 cities and Hochläger.
Hey Mordred, you might want to check out my war right now, because this is some irony happening. Yep. So Arachnos and I were planning on partitioning Mushasha after I joined, even though they were allied, because he's not a good ally. But since he's AI, he got called in by Mushasha against me. This is fun.
So you just need to remember that you can't actually take anything from him.
Oh, I couldn't take anything from him anyways. But yeah, I just have to try and piece him out and hope the rebels make him want.
Yeah. I mean, he is getting quite a few rebels at the moment, so he probably will.
Yeah. And his army's cut off, so here's hoping my better general helps out. But yeah, there goes some plans up and going awry for you.
Well, if he's not here, he's not here, so you have to make the most of that.
Yep.
Alright, so clearly Oman and Karakanyulu were planning to work together, but right now they are absolutely not. Were Poland's goals listed already? They were not. But if you want to see any of the goals before I've talked about them in detail, then you can go press !goal without an S, and it will pop up a link, and you can go to that link and you'll see all of the goals that I'm currently reading from. Minus the secret goals, because only I know those and the player. Every nation, don't forget, has a secret goal. So if a player is acting a little bit weird to what you would expect them to be acting, it might be because they're going after the secret goal. And that's the whole point of them. It adds a little bit of mystery and a little bit of uncertainty to what those players are after. And sometimes they're conflicting with other goals. Purposefully. I mean, a lot of the secret goals are balance of power, so it's all about trying to maintain a status quo in some way. Many of them, not all of them. What happened to Genoa? Genoa sold their provinces in Italy to the Papal States and then moved to Genoa, which is an interesting move considering player. I mean, at least as Genoa, they're in the Genoa trade node and they could have gone colonial. And in fact, we're going to talk about Genoa once we've done with France, and you will see that a bunch of their stuff is colonial. So I think that Genoa's just made this much more difficult for themselves by doing that. I'm not convinced that was a good move. Okay, so France needs to have a Canadian colony of at least 20 cities. They need to be in the Canadian colonial region. It needs to be Canadian. And they need to have at least 20 cities, so 20 provinces need to be fully colonized and in the colonial nation. They need to have Hochläger, which is this province, at 20 development. This is Montreal. I know historically Quebec was the bigger, but this one has a center of trade. Quebec doesn't, and that is why I've chosen Hochläger to be the bigger province. So that is their objective. That's the first one anyway. They need to own either London or Madrid. So there is a full Iberian alliance. Aragon, Castile and Portugal are allied with each other and have been from the start. There is definitely disharmony between France and Castile. Is France? Oh, hang on, play a war. This is the coalition, isn't it? Yes, this is the coalition. So we have got France, England versus... what players? Players. Austria. So we have France versus Austria fighting at the moment, and this is the big freaking coalition. So let's take a look at the diplomatic map mode so we can see precisely what is going on here. So we can see everything in green versus everything in red. The numbers on this side are 81,000 on the French side, 133,000 infantry on the coalition side, 4,000 artillery against 13, 14,000 cavalry against 45,000 cavalry. We are still in the era of shock. Cavalry reigns supreme. England is coming in to try and assist them. There are a lot of troops coming in. The coalition are taking a lot of damage, 4.7 morale against 3.6. The coalition do have the better discipline, but because this is just a mishmash of AI players, there isn't going to be a lot of working together here. So if France and England can keep on pulling off these decisive victories against these smaller stacks, then they should be able to hold this. But this is a lot of people fighting right now. And Austria clearly is... oh no, wait. Oh, Trier has been hired by Austria. So Trier is also a player. So clearly the... and Holland. So Austria is hiring a bunch of the Germanic miners to go and stomp France down. So this is one of my absolute favourite goals, is remember, the Germanic miners don't want to have anyone who is a great power and not of Germanic or Bohemian origin in North or South Germany. So Austria buying all of the Germanic miners allows the Germanic miners to get involved without actually being involved. So all of those combined armies are being hired out as condottieri at the moment, allowing them to smash up. So there is a lot going on. So we've got the French all charging in on Paris right now. This is going to be a defensive battle. Can I please see the fight itself? Here we go. We've got another 45,000 men on the way in. Unfortunately, Burgundy has very little morale compared to France. France getting morale from army tradition, power projection, and their morale guy. And they do have Elan. So France has managed to get Elan. It's 52,000 against 61,000. Another 10,000 on the way in. England has locked out the Trurian army, which means they're not going to be able to reinforce. And this does look like it's going to be a French victory. But this is all attrition. France is taking a lot of damage from this fight, and they are really up against it. We've got Milan coming in, a couple of last-minute reinforcements, including artillery. Milan has gone for artillery. The Palatinate coming in with some more troops. Are they going to arrive on time, though? 4th of September, most of them come in, and they're arriving in little bits and pieces. The French and the English fighting together side by side, 60,000 against 100,000. The Austrians have just arrived. We do still have a couple of spatterings of additional troops charging in. It looks like Trier has been sent really packing there. 90,000 against 60,000, 4 morale against 4.4. So it does look like Savoy is bringing some more higher morale. 1.3 attacks against 1.2. England has a little bit better discipline. And this does look like, yeah, eventually it went to a French victory. So 101,000 troops.
Yeah, Mordred.
Packing there. Hello.
So I know you can't see chat, but CPM, who doesn't have the voice mic, wants to know if he can break the truce against France. Truce breaking and attacking.
It's not in the rules, so yes.
I'll tell him.
Yeah, he asked it in chat, and we knew you couldn't read it, so...
Yeah, yeah, chat's difficult. Yes, he can. Because he does still suffer like -5 stability or something crazy.
Yeah,
Helson, you can do it as well. You know, fucking humiliate. Well, come on, you know you want
I can join in 2 years. It's okay.
Oh, goddamn.
Alright, so it does look like the French and the English have weathered that storm, but the damage they took, 20,000 manpower is going to drop them down to just 6,000 men in total. And that's a lot of money that they are spending on the reinforcements right now. This is France. So 31,000 being spent at the moment, most of it in the army maintenance, most of it going to the reinforcements. Are they being subsidized by anyone? They are getting a little subsidy from England, although that is, of course, the subsidy for transferring trade. I don't know if England is going to try to invest any more into this. Because at the moment it doesn't look like they are. Neither of them have raised war taxes, which is interesting. That's something I always forget to do. English Navy. I don't think the English are going to suffer any naval